What's up, y'all? Roy here, and you are listening to the Clemens with a Z podcast. So I came across some kind of, I don't know if it was commercial or advertisement or something popped up on Instagram from this men's foundation the other day. And their whole thing is about Christian masculinity, being a warrior, like that kind of vibe. And their tagline was kill the dragon, win the girl. Now, I'll be honest, when I first saw that, I laughed. It sounds like something out of a Disney movie or a video game. But then it kind of started to sink in, like, wait, like this is how we're framing manhood, Christian masculinity, whatever it is. Like there's some monster out there you have to destroy, and once you do, you get a woman as your prize. Like that's the story. It was weird for me because not too long before that, I had been watching this old interview with Joseph Campbell, the metaphor guy, the hero's journey guy, the myth scholar. And in the interview, someone asked him, question about slaying the dragon, because I think he had mentioned something about how heroes slay dragons within themselves. And the interviewer said, well, how do you slay the dragon within yourself? And Campbell's answer couldn't have been more different or opposite from this Men's Foundation quote. He said, I tell my students to follow their bliss. And that contrast between Campbell's depth and this foundation's cartoon slogan is what I want to wrestle with today. Because the way we talk about quote unquote dragons says a lot about what we believe the journey of a man, or really the journey of a human, is all about. And I want to say this up front because I want to. Uh, in a lot of my podcasts and even this episode, I poke a lot at men's stuff a bit. And I've got some critiques, but I hope that when I'm talking about this and critiquing it, y'all can hear my heart behind it too. Because at the end of the day, I don't judge men for getting caught up in this. I know men were hurting, we're confused, we're all looking for answers. And I mean, I actually think it's a beautiful thing when a man admits he wants help, when he says, I want to dig deeper and seeks it out and goes somewhere for it. That's not weakness, that's strength. My frustration isn't with the men or people or any of this. I think it's the shallow systems, institutions, and slogans that keep all of us from going deeper and inward. So let's sit with this for a second. Campbell says the dragon isn't out there, it's inside us, it's in here. And hearing that, it always lands in my gut because if I'm honest, most of the dragons I've faced in my life haven't been these big external monsters. They've been fear, they've been shame, they've been those little voices that say, you're not enough. And it's interesting because Campbell is the guy who gave us the whole hero's journey framework. All of you, if you're listening, should look into it. It's powerful, it's amazing. It's great. It's the hero's journey is this thing that every story is built on. And when you look at those stories, you'll see all of these characters fighting monsters or dragons or armies. But what's crazy about this, or like what the real transformation is it's really like not about an outward battle. It's always about something happening inside. Look at any character. I mean, I can talk Frodo, we'll talk about um him finding the strength within himself to continue on his journey. And that's what they have to do. And they always have to confront their own demons. They have to become someone new in order to make it through. So that dragon it's just the image when the real battle is within. And Campbell is so clear. In the interview, he continues talking about how the dragon is made up of all of these like thou shalt and thou shalt nots. What he means by that is all those rules and scripts that other people hand to us about who we're supposed to be, what we're supposed to do, all of those things. And for me, a lot of those scripts and rules came from church. Things like what it meant to be a good Christian, a good man, even a good leader. For someone else, it might be family expectations or culture or just the weight of their own self doubt. And that's why his answer, follow your bliss, is so disruptive because it's not about fighting harder. It's not about muscling through. It's more about paying attention to what makes you come alive and daring to walk toward it. That's what slays the dragon. It's not domination, but discovery. And honestly, doesn't that flip everything? Because the story so many of us were given is that there's always a dragon out there. The enemy is always out there, the world, the culture, the feminists, the devil, the Democrats, the Republicans, whatever version of monster we've been handed. And if we're always fighting the thing out there, then we never have to turn inward and face what's really holding us back. So Campbell takes this ancient myth and points it back at us. The dragon is essentially your ego. The dragon is your fear. The dragon is that little voice telling you to stay small. And the only way through it, the only way to actually live your story, is to walk toward your bliss. And I can look back in my life the last few years and see all of the dragon slaying I had to do. Not the fairy tale kind or the culture war kind. It's all the inward dragons. Dragons of fear, dragons of shame, dragons of those voices from my past. But there's more. For me, I've faced the dragon of my own mental and emotional health. The days where anxiety or depression tried to convince me that I wasn't strong enough or that I didn't deserve joy or maybe that I should just quit. Like those are dragons too. They don't go down in one strike. They're battles I've had to come back to over and over again. And I think for me, the hardest one is the dragon of identity, the dragon of who I am anyway. Who am I outside the roles the church gave me? Who am I when I'm not trying to be what I'm quote unquote supposed to be? I think that's one of the scariest dragons I've had to face and look in the eye. Because what it really means is I've got to strip away all the armor, all the scripts, all the masks, sit quietly and ask, is there anything underneath? And I know probably some of you listening are dealing with that as well. And I think this is where, if I'm honest, following your bliss gets real hard. Because asking, what do I want from myself? What makes me come alive? Doesn't come easy for men, for people, for parents. I wasn't raised to ask that. I was raised to follow the script, do what I was told, and stepping away from that to find what actually lights me up, oh, has felt risky and even foolish at sometimes. But it also reminds me of something I said a while back in an episode on was titled Finding My Wild. Back then I realized for a long time I thought wild had to look a certain way. What I'm talking about is like the things that I love or being a man. It had to look a certain way, big, intense, maybe even dangerous. But here's what I'm learning, that wild doesn't have to be theatrical. Sometimes wild is just being present. Wild is belonging to the world instead of trying to control it. Do you want to learn more? Head back to the episode Finding My Wild. And I think in that episode, that's the same shift that Campbell is pointing to. Because slaying the dragon doesn't have to be theatrical. Doesn't have to be about proving yourself or conquering some enemy outside. It's about presence, it's about depth, it's about discovering your life right here underneath all of the noise. And that's why those words ring true for me. Follow your bliss. Not win the girl, not conquer the enemy, but walk toward the thing that makes you feel most alive. That's been my weapon. That's been how I've kept going. Whether it's writing, podcasting, creating, or just choosing honesty in conversations where it would have been easier to hide. And every time I've done that, I've felt one of those dragons loosen its grip. Not really disappear, just lose a little bit of its power. Now, when I step back though and look at it, It's not a problem that these stories exist. I'm talking about Disney fairy tales, knights fighting dragons, heroes rescuing princesses. They've been around forever. And as kids, when we read those, they give us something simple to grab onto, right? Good versus evil, danger versus safety, victory versus defeat. Like those stories, in a way, get us into the door. But the problem is if we stay there, they only keep you at the surface. They give you these like sea level versions of life. And if you never grow past it, if you never ask deeper questions, you get stuck. I have, we all do. We end up looking for monsters outside instead of facing the ones inside. And that's where these men's groups come in. They take the same cartoon storyline, slap a Bible verse on it, and they'll say things like kill the dragon and win the girl. And it sounds bold, it sounds heroic, but it's that same surface level script. And I get it. I mean, I feel the protective instinct in me. I want to shield my family. I want to be strong. That desire isn't wrong. But when it gets hijacked by slogans, it shrinks us down into caricatures. Because here's what happens if all the dragons are out there, you never have to look in here. And the longer you avoid those inner battles, the more fragile you actually become. Outwardly, you might look strong, aggressive, armored up, got a cool t shirt on, but inwardly, you're brittle. You can't hold the weight, you can't deepen, and you can't grow. That's why I call it shallow, because life isn't meant to stay at sea level. Those entry level stories are supposed to point you towards something deeper, not keep you stuck repeating the same fairy tale as grown men looking for your Snow White or something like that. And the tragedy is this that when men stay at surface level, it doesn't just stunt them, it ripples into everything. Marriages that never move past defensiveness, fathers who can't connect with their kids because they're too armored up, friendships that never go beyond surface talk because no one feels safe enough to be vulnerable. The sea level story cheats us out of the depth that we were made for. So maybe this critique isn't just that these slogans are wrong, it's that they're incomplete. They're half a story, and half a story will keep you small. The dragon isn't meant to keep you at sea level. The dragon is supposed to pull you deeper into the part of the journey where the real transformation happens. So let's talk about the words again. Follow your bliss. On the surface, it sounds almost too easy, like some kind of inspirational bumper sticker on the back of a Toyota Prius in a Whole Foods parking lot. But when you really sit with it, I know for me, it's actually kind of terrifying because what it does is it forces you to ask, what do I want? What makes me come alive? And for most of us, especially men, that's the question we've never really been taught to ask. We've been told our job is to provide, to be responsible, to keep our heads down and keep grinding. And I think about Henry David Thoreau, and he said it best: the mass of men lead lives of quiet desperation. And that's what happens when you spend your whole life meeting everyone else's expectations, but never stop to ask what your own soul is crying out for. Don't get it twisted. Providing for your family is fucking beautiful. Showing up for your kids, paying the bills, putting food on the table, that's sacred work. But if that's all you ever do, if you never weave in your own aliveness, then you're not really giving your family you. You're just giving them a role, a provider, a paycheck, a man living at sea level. And most of us were raised in systems, church, school, even family, and it made it hard because that didn't leave much room for that question. Desire was suspect, wanting was selfish. If you did think about what you wanted, the answer was supposed to line up with the system wanted you to see and wanted from you. And so the dragon of desire becomes one of the hardest to face because it means trusting your own voice after years of being told not to. So, what if we started with the question of desire earlier? What if instead of ignoring what makes us come alive, we brought it into the way we provide, the way we show up, the way we love? That doesn't mean abandoning responsibility. It means integrating who we really are into these roles we play. And it takes me back to something else that I said in my episode on finding my wild. Because back then I realized for a long time I thought my wild had to look a certain way, big, intense, maybe even dangerous. But what I'm learning is that wild doesn't have to be theatrical, it's just being present. Wild is belonging to the world instead of trying to control it. And that moment was huge for me because it took my wild, myself, my desire, my bliss out of the realm of fantasy and put it back into my everyday life. It didn't have to be a mountaintop or dramatic act of rebellion. It could be as simple as sitting on the floor with my kid, actually listening, playing Legos or whatever, or saying the thing I was too scared to admit, wearing what I wanted to wear, doing what I wanted to do, or just giving myself permission to create, even if no one else ever saw it. That's what it's looking like for me, and it's lining up perfectly with Campbell's invitation to follow my bliss. And I believe that that's the kind of dragon slaying that Campbell was talking about. Not swinging swords at some outside enemy, but facing the inner resistance that tells you don't ask for more, don't rock the boat, don't want too much. The dragon says stay small. Following your bliss is what cuts the grip loose. Because at the end of the day, the real prize isn't the girl or the validation or the applause. The real prize is your life. It's being fully present, fully alive, bringing all of yourself into your work, your marriage, your friendships, your parenting. That's what depth looks like. That's what transformation feels like. And the beautiful thing is, when you do that, when you let yourself follow your bliss, it doesn't just change you, it changes everything. Changes the way you show up for the people you love. Your family doesn't just get the provider, they get the whole person. Your friends don't just get surface level talk, they get the real you. Your community doesn't just get a role you're playing, they get your actual presence. And that's a gift that no one else can give but you. And again, the truth is, I don't judge men or women or whoever that gets pulled into this stuff. I see them, I hear them, I've had them on this podcast. I know that we're all carrying real questions, real pain, real confusion, and real hurt, and we're looking for answers. For anyone to admit they want help and they want to dig deeper into their own life, that is not weakness. That's a beautiful, powerful thing. I just want to push back at these systems that keep all of us stuck at this sea level. The people who sell us half a story and call it transformation. The slogans that sound bold but keep us small. That's where my fire is aimed because I know we can go deeper than that. And again, remember, when we do that, when we follow our bliss, when we go deeper, it changes the way we show up everywhere. And we can stop living lives of quiet desperation and start living lives of quiet depth. So that's the invitation I want to leave with you. Follow your bliss doesn't have to be theatrical. It can just be present. It can be depth. And it can be choosing to bring your whole self into the places in your life that matter the most. That's the real prize. That's the kind of dragon slaying worth giving your life to. Thanks so much for listening to today's episode of Clemens with a Z. If something in this conversation resonated with you, I'd love to hear from you. You can email me at clemenswithaz@gmail.com or send me a DM over on Instagram at Clemens with a Z podcast. If you want to support the podcast financially, you can head over to clemenswithaz.com. There's a merch store there with shirts, stickers, all kinds of stuff. Or you can donate directly through the GoFundMe. The link's in the show notes, and every little bit goes a long way in helping me keep these conversations going. And if you're looking for something a little more regular, check out my Substack, Devotions for the Disillusioned and the Deconstructing. That's where I share short reflections, devotionals, and some extra stuff and thoughts that don't always make it onto the podcast. And of course, the best way you can support the show is by subscribing, rating, and leaving a review wherever you listen to podcasts. Share it with a friend, post it on your socials, drop it in a group chat. It all helps more than you know. This podcast keeps going because of listeners like you showing up, engaging, and passing it on. So thank you for being here, for listening, and for being part of this messy middle with me. Until next time, take care of yourself and each other. Peace.